everybody, it's Kevin again with Cop Stop Guardian, here to let you know a few tips about a traffic stop that you should know that can get you home safely. Now, if you haven't seen the first version of this video, we're going to go over these crucial police stop procedures just one more time. So the first thing you need to know when you're being stopped or detained by a police officer is that it's technically what's called a temporary arrest or seizure. Police stops can be very dangerous to both the officer and the citizen. However, because the police officer is voluntarily putting his or her life in constant danger, the Supreme Court has ruled and given them something called unquestioned command at a police or traffic stop to further ensure their safety, and in most cases, even over your Fourth Amendment rights. So this means the police officer has great leeway in telling you what and what not to do at a police stop when assessing whether you've committed an infraction or a crime. So contrary to what you may have seen on TV or in the movies, the police officer does have the right to tell you to get out of the car. So please don't resist. Now, if they do or don't tell you to get out of the car, it's under what's called police discretion, which is just a fancy way of saying whether they will feel like it or not. So again, don't resist. And because of this very reason, whenever you are confronted by a police officer for a possible infraction or crime, it is extremely important that you know your rights and follow these basic steps to ensure a safe outcome, or so that you can get restitution after the fact in case they do violate or infringe upon your rights. The Constitution guarantees you certain rights to be secure from having your liberties taken away at the will of the government, but you have to know these rights in order to assert them properly. So the three main laws you want to focus on are Amendments 4, 5, and 6 of the Constitution. The Fourth Amendment guarantees your right against unreasonable searches and seizures without your consent. The Fifth Amendment guarantees your right to remain silent and to not incriminate yourself. And the Sixth Amendment guarantees your right to an attorney or legal counsel. So with these few rights in mind, we're going to go over a few tips at a traffic or police stop that you can do that will get you home safely. Rule number 1. Always remain calm and talk respectfully to the police officer. Now, does this make you a punk, weak, or soft? Absolutely not. It's just common sense. Police officers are taught to battle aggression, so the very slightest hint of aggression puts the police officer on autopilot to get you to calm down by any means necessary. And usually that's going to be by force. So remaining calm will usually disarm the police officer and get them to calm down as well. Always remember, your mouth, ego, and fear will usually lead to a catastrophic police stop. If you truly are terrified at a police stop, you can dial 911 and have them on speakerphone to make you feel more secure, as well as having extra record of the stop. Rule number 2, always keep your hands in a visible place where the police officer can see them. This takes away the officer's ability to claim that you were acting in a threatening or non-compliant manner. Rule number 3, always appear to be complying with the officer's request. As stated, when you are detained by a police officer, it's technically what's called a temporary arrest or seizure. So the officer has unquestioned command to make you comply at a police stop as long as it doesn't interfere with your Fourth Amendment or constitutional right. Rule number 4, your consent is required to search your property. The Fourth Amendment guarantees your right against unreasonable searches and seizures. However, physically asserting this right can lead to a catastrophic police stop. So only verbalize your non-consent to the search by saying, "Officer, I do not consent to searches." Now, they still may search your car illegally, but this does give your lawyer a better chance of defeating the case if you choose to pursue any further legal action after the stop, or place a lien on the officer's surety bond. Or you can just always hand them your constitutional rights card, this beautiful thing right here, and just remain silent. Number 5, always ask if you are free to go. Now, as stated, whenever you're detained at a traffic or police stop, it's technically what's called a temporary arrest or seizure. So the police officer will keep you there as long as they can until they get you to incriminate yourself by answering questions. So always ask the officer, "Am I being detained?" or "Am I free to go?" And if the officer says you're not being detained, you need to leave immediately. You should know that officers can legally lie to you and don't have to read you your rights when they take you into temporary custody. So they will keep you there answering questions trying to get you to incriminate yourself unless you ask, "Officer, are you detaining me or am I free to go?" If you don't, The stop, detainment, or illegal search will be considered consent. Now, you should also know that the Supreme Court has ruled in Rodriguez versus the United States that a police officer cannot keep you at a stop longer than is necessary to effectuate the mission of that stop. This means, according to the Supreme Court, that the officer's mission includes inquiries incident to the traffic stop, such as checking the driver's license, checking your driver's registration, checking if the driver has any outstanding warrants, and also proof of insurance. All of which serve the same goal as enforcing the traffic code. This should take no longer than 10 to 15 minutes. Really more than 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. If you're at a traffic stop for more than 20 minutes, you need to ask the police officer, are you detaining me or am I free to go? And for your information, the legal limit that a police officer can keep you at a police stop or traffic stop is 60 minutes. Now, if the officer does tell you that you're being detained or arrested and tries to get you to incriminate yourself by asking you a lot of questions that you're not comfortable with, simply hand the officer your constitutional rights card, this beautiful thing right here, and I will read to you what's on this card in a second, but simply hand the officer your constitutional rights card and remain silent. Or if you don't have one of these beautiful cards, simply tell the officer politely you would like to remain silent and you want to see a lawyer. This will alert the officer that you're well aware of your rights and compel them to act accordingly. Constitutional rights card information. I'm going to read to you what's on this card. This is a card that everyone should have at a traffic or police stop if you don't know your rights. First of all, you definitely should be on the road to knowing your rights, your basic rights at traffic stops, at police stops. But if you don't, this is something very simple that you can have with you, that you can hand the police officer and remain silent, that will alert them to all of your rights, as well alert them to what will happen if they violate or infringe upon your constitutional rights. So I'll read over it right now. Constitutional rights card. All police officers and public officials. The bearer of this card expressly reserves all U.S. constitutional rights and chooses to exercise the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments thereof in the presence of or detainment and arrest by any police officers or public officials. These rights include, but are not limited to, the right to remain silent, the right against unreasonable searches and seizures. The bearer of this card does not consent to searches. 3, the right to lawfully record police officers in public except for Massachusetts and Illinois. 4, the right not to be unlawfully harassed or profiled by police officers due to my race, religion, and or creed. And 5, the right to legal representation. Now on the back is where all the magic is. Bearer of this card fully expects any and all police officers and officials attempting to impede said bearer's right to ingress and regress to have probable cause, that's the 4th Amendment and Wren versus United States, and or reasonable suspicion, specific and articulable facts, U.S. Supreme Court Terry versus Ohio, to effectuate and validate such a stop. If bearer of this card's constitutional rights are abrogated or infringed upon by any public servant, officer, official, or agents thereof, a tort claim and lien against the officers and or public officials' official surety bond will be filed pursuant to state and federal law. Any abrogation or violation of the cardholder's constitutional rights by said officers and or public officials constitutes cognizance, consent, and forfeiture to said bond claim as required by the officer's oath of office and oath to the U.S. Constitution. Those are very, very powerful legal words that are written on this card. You probably don't understand because you're not well aware of the law yet. However, when a police officer reads this card, they will know exactly what's going on. In every state within the United States, all police officers or public officials are supposed to have something called a public official bond, which is basically just an insurance policy to make sure that the officers or public officials don't do any damage or irreparable harm to the public or the government at large. So this means that whenever they do violate the Constitution or cause any damage to the public at large or the government, then you can place what's called a lien on their bond. A lien is like a charge. That's all. It's basically a claim saying that I claim whatever this bond, whatever the amount the bond is for, I claim this bond because the officer has violated my constitutional rights. Now, the very thing with this bond is, once the lien is placed on the police officers or public officials' bond, they cannot work. It's a wrap. They cannot work. And in most cases, they put up personal property for this bond, meaning their car, their house, or something of that matter. So when the lien is placed on the bond, that means their personal property also is placed. The lien is placed on their personal property. So this is very, very catastrophic for a police officer, meaning they can't work, and in many cases, a lot of their property will be seized. So that's your out. That is the one way that you have to get back at them that they can do nothing about. However, you have to know this right, you have to know these laws in order to assert them. If you get the constitutional rights card package from it, and also just to let you know that this card is actually the same consistency as a credit card. Okay, it's a plastic card that you can sign on the back. It has a place for your signature on the back so that it's your card. As well, when you sign a document like this will be considered a legal instrument. When you sign a legal instrument like that, it gives it more force in law. So again, this card, when you get this card, or if you don't have the card, if you don't know any of your basic rights, you can order this card. And this card, if you order the full package, it also comes with a Know Your Rights manual. All right, this Know Your Rights manual has everything that's on this card within this. Also, it has the bond information. It has the information on how to go about placing the lien on the officer's bond. Every step that you need to do, as well as what you may need to look up within your state, because all of these laws differ in the different states. But it does have the information in here that you can institute the steps to go about filing a lien upon the police officers or public officials' bond. It also has a link in here to information where you can sue a police officer, either state or federal. So it has remedies for you if your rights are violated or infringed upon by the police or the government as well. Everyone in the government has to have one of these bonds in order to work. That's the law. So they don't want you to know that. This is the very end game for them. This is why they try to hide these bonds all over the place. But this is your remedy. This is your way out. And these are just a few tips that you can do to get you home safely from a traffic stop. For more police stop information on what to do, please visit copstopguardian.org, aclu.org, or flexyourright.org. For the constitutional rights card or the Know Your Rights manual, visit realnagas.com and click on the Naga Knowledge Shop. And for those of you who buy the hard copy of the Great Book of Melanin Research, you will get your Know Your Rights card free. You will get the card free. However, you will get the package for half off, the full package for half off. So that includes if you want the card and the Know Your Rights manual, or you want the whole thing, the card, Know Your Rights manual, and a consultation with me, you will get all of that for half off. But if you just want the card will come free if you order the Great Book of Melanin Research. Plus, when I do send you the card, you get a hard copy sheet of what's written on the card. All right, so you don't have to struggle and try to read and understand what it says. Also, so that you can study those laws and enhance your information and knowledge even more. Again, this has been Kevin with Cop Stop Guardian saying, please, please, please learn your rights, know your rights. That's the only way for you to get out. Peace.